Alright y'all, welcome back to another edition of Studying Cinema with Cozy. I'm your host, Jamal Hollywood, and in honor of Black History Month, we've been reviewing black movies directed by black people, starring black people, or anything of the sorts. And this week we will be reviewing one of the most popular movies in black cinema history, the beginning to a trilogy, as you may all know. One of Morris Chestnut's most famous movies, one of Taye Diggs' most famous movies, and that movie is The Best Man. So The Best Man is about, a group of college friends who grow up and, they all live their own lives. They all go on their own paths, career-wise, social-wise, and, they all come back together because one of their friends, Lance, who is a football player now, is about to get married. And in the midst of all of this, there's drama in between when it comes to one of the characters named Harper and his book that he wrote as an author, and how it reflects a lot of the college life that him and his friends experienced during their time. Even though names are swapped out for other names and some of the storylines are altered for the book, it's pretty clear cut that, this book was based off of his social life in college, and that all of the characters in the book are representative of his friends in real life. So diving into the real meat and potatoes of this movie. There's a lot to be said about this film, from, the social relationships that are being had to some of the dialogue that's being said between, these characters. A lot of the things that were done in this movie is very telling of society as a whole when it comes to relationships and how people view certain statuses and how people may maneuver based off of these certain statuses. I feel like Harper is extremely wrong for what he did throughout this movie, from writing the book to hiding the secret, to even, redirecting the blame on other people when the blame was truly on him. He's the one that wrote this book to portray that his college friends lived a certain life. Even though the names in the book were not the same names as his friends in real life, the storylines of these characters in the book coincided with the storylines that certain friends in his life lived out. And those friends can see that within the book. And through those lines, they could also see that the character of Taye Diggs, Harper, that he has also done some dirt too. And that the wife-to-be in the movie is actually an old flame of his. Throughout the movie, Lance doesn't know about Harper and Mia's, infidelity. But it does come to light in the end. And it comes to light in a way I guess Harper least expected it. And this is why I say Harper is wrong on many levels. He went from writing the book about, certain secrets that were not brought to light about his best friend who was a soon-to-be married man. On top of that, he has a girlfriend that he's dealing with who he's also contemplating stepping out on because he's looking to see if his old college flame is still single and on her own, I guess. Throughout the days that his girlfriend isn't in town for the wedding, he does flirt a little bit here and there and also goes to have sex with this woman. Although that is ultimately stopped by Lance attacking him after finding out that he slept with Mia, it's still very telling of Harper's character to step out on his girlfriend to write this book, to also double down on the fact that it wasn't his fault, it was Jordan's fault for, spilling the beans. All of that coming together makes you realize that Harper was, the main, and I wouldn't say the main villain, but he was the root of every issue almost in this film. He should have been more honest from the get-go. He shouldn't have fed into temptation the way he did when it came to Mia and their past. And I honestly think Mia is just as wrong as Harper in this film. The fact that Mia knowingly, and willingly, gave herself to Harper just for quote-unquote revenge. I don't know if the revenge line was just for the book or if the revenge line was to reflect on Lance stepping out on Mia, being a, national football player and being a prospect into the NFL. I'm not sure what that revenge line was really meant to tell, but I do know at the end of the day, Mia is wrong for stepping out and sleeping with her man's best friend. And Harper is just as wrong for falling into the temptation of sleeping with his best friend's girlfriend. The fact that they held on to this secret for years, and the fact that at the end of it all, it was almost like Lance had to forgive himself, forgive the people around him and to just settle in a way just to become happy in the end. Now, with the many layers of Harper also comes in, the roles that other people play into this movie. As I said before, Mia is just as wrong as Harper for taking it upon herself to do that. And Harper is just as wrong for feeding into that. One of the most memorable scenes in this movie is when all four, friends, guy friends, are playing cards together, a couple days before the wedding. And Quentin, which is Terrence Howard's character, starts a conversation about Mia stepping out on Lance. And if that was a possibility, how would Lance react? And he states that it would be karma based on the fact that Lance had stepped out on Mia plenty of times. With that word karma coming into effect, who would have ever thought that his best friend would be the one to, cause that fear that, was instilled in Lance? This is where I get to the point of questioning whether or not Harper had any, ill intentions when it came to the people around him. As I said before, he had a girlfriend back home. He left her at home for the beginning of the trip just to see if he had a chance with Nia Long's character, Jordan. On top of that, tried to blame Jordan for Lance eventually finding out about the Mia situation, even though he was the one that wrote that situation in the book. And also, when shit hit the fan, he was crying on his girlfriend's shoulder. As soon as she got off the airport, he was in her arms, acting as if everything he did over the past couple of days just didn't happen, and that, he was the victim. Even though he didn't say he was the victim, body language and just the way that the character, played itself out, it was kind of like he was pitiful in the end, for everything. He had basically backstabbed his friend, stepped out on his relationship to a certain degree, and still in the end was, calling for the same people that he was hurting throughout the whole film. So ultimately, look, what does this say about Harper? Because his character is the most polarizing in the film. And I feel like, to go back to something I said earlier, I do feel like there was some sort of resentment within him, especially when it came to just writing the book in general. I feel like a lot of situations that he wrote out in the book were situations that he wished could have played out in real life, of course. When it comes to his personal relationships with his friends, and then the relationships that his character has with his friends in the book, is very telling of where his feelings lie with everyone. At that point, he's fully transparent with how he feels about his peers and the people around him. And, people question him on it throughout the film, and they question him in general about his integrity and where his heart lays. Lance is a very God-fearing man. Throughout the film, you don't see Harper submit himself to God or the Most High, and he's not really convinced that there is one. His lack of faith coinciding with the fact that his actions were stemming from some sort of resentment or hate, it goes hand in hand. A part of me feels like there was some sort of jealousy when it came to his friend Lance. As I was saying, I don't want to jump the gun on anything, but I do feel like there was some sort of jealousy at play. I do feel like, to a certain degree, Harper was kind of jealous of the situation that Lance was in, to be specific. When it comes to the limelight and, the fame and stardom, I don't know if that is what kind of created the jealousy, but regardless of anything, I do feel like there was some sort of animosity in their relationship, and it all stems from, a female, of course. And that's why I say Mia is just as wrong. Definitely just as wrong. Now, when it comes to karma, everything comes back around. And this movie is a tale of that, Everything in this movie comes back around. From Quentin getting on merch about his shorty to eventually, as you guys may know throughout the series, he ends up, marrying that same woman, to Harper feeling a way about his relationship, to coming around and, trying to make things work in his relationship. Everything comes back around full circle in this. And when it comes to the karma, the theme of karma in this film definitely comes back full circle. When it comes to karma, nobody can time it. Nobody can time when that karma is going to hit them. So as I was saying before, who would have ever expected Lance's best friend to be the one to sleep with his soon-to-be wife, and that be his karma throughout the film? I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. What it does say is that the realest person in this whole film is Terrence Howard's character, Quentin. He's the most honest character in the film when it comes to himself and the situations that he's in and the people around him. He's the most honest with his friends and their situations. He's just the most honest overall. And he's cut and dry with it too. He ain't playing no games, you feel me? I definitely feel like out of all the characters in the film, he's the most likable throughout the whole film. Let's talk about the lesson of forgiveness in this film. At the end of it, you see Lance having to forgive his friend Harper for everything that he has done. And this movie also ties a lot of faith into the film, being that Lance is a, God-fearing person, and his faith in God is what brings him back to his center, It allows him to move on with what has been brought to him and, forgive those that have hurt him. Even though what those have done may not be right, he has to know that, in order for him to live his purpose the way that he only sees it, he has to continuously forgive those that hurt him and to move on and learn every step of the way to move more righteously and to just, be more mature about things. It does take a lot for a man to forgive his best friend for something like that and his wife for something like that. I do feel like what Harper did is something that is unforgivable, especially being that that's your soon-to-be wife and it was a kept secret for years on end. It makes you kind of look at everybody different, and throughout the film you could see that Lance is looking at him differently throughout his actions in the film, trying to hide the book from him or just saying shit here and there, that make you give him a side eye a little bit. And Harper knows he's dead wrong throughout the film, because after Jordan tells him that he's dead wrong, he starts to feel it within himself and he starts to get anxious behind it too. That feeling of guilt and knowing that he is wrong, caused him to reap all of the sins that he sowed in the first place. We see Lance, unleash himself onto Harper, attacking him, almost throwing him off a roof. We see him, almost lose his relationship based off of his infidelity and the secrets that he kept, that he actually wrote into this book. And not only his relationship with his significant other, but you could see like how the ripple effect of everything at play could lead to him just, losing his friends and, whatever else may come along with that. So I do feel like the most noble thing throughout this film was for Lance to forgive Harper based off of his actions and the character that he played, because nothing that Harper did was forgivable, especially when it was almost like a mockery for him to write a book that kind of told the story of how he slept with his soon-to-be wife. Now, with that being said, we get into the topic of love and how love is depicted in this film. I think it's interesting that throughout some of these films, not even just, The Best Man in that series, but a lot of these romantic films show people going through a lot of hardship to make things work, especially when it comes to, cheating, adultery, and things like that. And I'm not going to say situations like this don't happen, but it's really hard to love somebody through that level of hurt, For Lance to, in the end, just forgive his best friend, to forgive his wife, and to continuously love them the way that he always did, speaks a lot. And the question is, did he settle for that, or did he, get his just due when it comes to karma and his infidelity throughout his career? There's a lot of questions, to be asked when it comes to that. But it really makes you think, like, what is the true foundation of love? Can you love somebody through hardships like that, through cheating, through, lies and secrets and things of that nature? The journey of any relationship may have its ups and downs, and, people may fall out of love and fall back into love. But, your love is your love at the end of the day, because as you can see with this film, everybody's standard of love and, commitment is different. Even at the stage of, questioning whether or not you're willing to marry somebody, you see characters in this film having the thought in their head of stepping out on a person or just, doing them for the sake of doing them. I'm not here to say who's right or wrong when it comes to that. All I know is that love and hate are two and the same. Although some of these people in this film may think that they love their person or they love somebody, there's a lot of hate coinciding with that as well. Lance had to have hated his wife for a split second when he found out what had really happened, just as much as he hated Harper for the moments that he did at the end of the film when he found out the truth about what happened. The worst thing that anybody could do is just not care. And that's one thing you don't see people doing in this film, is not caring, except for when Murch finally, puts his foot down and says that he's done with his relationship with Shelby. And that in and of itself is a whole nother form of a relationship that, is toxic, because it's all about manipulation and control. But it's good to see that him put his foot down in the end to kind of like push that to the side and also pursue somebody who may not, on the face seem like the type of person that he should be with, being that he met her at the bachelor party. But it may be somebody, or it is somebody that he connects with on a deeper level that he did with Shelby. So with that being said, it brings me back around to the question, like, what is the standard of love, for certain people? Everybody's love looks different. That's one lesson to take away from this film, is that everybody's love is not the same. Everybody's story is not the same. Everybody doesn't have a fairy tale ending to their story, just like Harper and Jordan didn't have a fairy tale ending to their story. Some people need to just realize that what they have presented in front of them is enough, instead of seeking out anything else to make it feel like, what they have isn't enough. People go looking for things, and then it turns out that that's not what they really want or need in the end. Harper was about to step out on his girlfriend until Lance beat his ass, and then after that opportunity was gone. Who's to say that it was even meant to happen for them? After the Stevie Wonder record, started scratching in the beginning, and after that situation, it probably wasn't meant to happen for them, even though their love for each other kind of made them think that something like that would happen. It's just that thought of knowing what if, for some people, that may be just enough for them to, risk everything or throw it all away for whatever it may be, for a one-night stand, for a 5-month relationship, or for something that don't even pan out the way that you guys thought it would be. In the end, I feel like this is one of the better, romantic comedies, especially in black cinema. I do feel like, there's lessons to be learned within this film. It's an entertaining film throughout the whole film. And, it has a great cast of actors that they're all doing their part. There's no one that's, not acting to the same ability as the next person that's bringing the film down. Everybody is doing their part, and it elevates the film. This film is built, and it has lasted the test of time through the characters that these actors have played and the stories that have come because of that, and the reflection that people see within themselves when they look at these characters. Sometimes a lot of the storylines in these series of films, particularly talking about the first one, are seen on an everyday basis, in people's relationships when it comes to, dealing with secrets, dealing with, the thought of knowing whether or not a person is right for you, the thought of, stepping out, for some people. All of those different scenarios play out on an everyday basis within relationships, and I feel like this movie is a good representation of those specific situations without draining you, or without, feeling like it's over-exaggerating on the message that it's trying to convey. In the end, I personally think Lance should have just called everything off and stuck to his gut, you feel me? Because ain't no way I'm forgiving something like that. At all. I ain't forgiving nothing like that. But the movie has a greater lesson to teach us, Like I said, it's the lessons of forgiveness. It's talking about karma and its effects on people and everything within that realm, So it's a lot of faith tied into this movie. and rightfully so. You know, it plays a huge part in the outcome of the film. I do recommend this movie to those who haven't seen it, especially, you know, with it being Valentine's Day and, you know, that spirit being in the air. It's one of those movies that, you know, you and your shorty or you and your significant other could watch together and enjoy, get a good laugh off, you know, and, you know, chat about for a little bit. Definitely recommend it. It would definitely be forever remembered and, you know, forever played within Black households. As you guys may know, this movie is a classic. You know, it's the first part of a 3-part series, and it's a classic. It's a classic. It's a classic. With that being said, that concludes this review. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, as you guys have been running up the views on these movie reviews. And like I said, we've been doing Black films as of late to honor Black History Month, and we're going to keep on doing those. I'm going to put up another poll soon, you know, and we're going to vote on the next movie. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, share with your peoples, your friends, your family. You know, tune into the Cozy website where you guys can find merchandise, you know, packages, anything of the sort for your artistic needs. And I just want to thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys on the next video.